The sky turned red before anyone heard the engines. Thick clouds rolled across the horizon like waves made of fire. Birds scattered in every direction. The animals went silent. Alara Voss stood on the rusted observation tower of an old research station, eyes wide, heart still. Above her, 1,000 black dots fell through the sky. Not stars. Not meteors. Ships. She had seen pictures of them in old off-world archives, Trivax drop pods. Tear-shaped metal vessels designed to pierce atmospheres and deliver troops in seconds. They didn't belong here. No alien ship had touched Earth in over 300 years. Earth had been locked out of the Galactic Union. Too dangerous. Too wild. Too unpredictable. A place spoken of in hushed voices. A death world. Now they were here. Alara didn't panic. Panic came later. First came instinct. She grabbed her gear, light armor, energy blade, an old plasma pistol, and a field pack. Then she sent a burst signal through her communicator. Invasion confirmed. Trivax fleet. Eastern quadrant. Groundfall in 2 minutes. She knew few would hear it. Most of Earth's satellites were dead. Communications only worked short range now. But she had to try. Her research station was built into a cliffside, deep in the South American jungle. It had been her home for 5 years, studying how Earth's ecosystems had adapted after centuries of war, climate collapse, and isolation. She'd seen forests regrow over cities. Animals mutate into near-sapient hunters. Plants that responded to human fear. Now the jungle below rumbled. The first pod slammed into the trees, sending fire and shock waves across the canopy. Alara watched the leaves curl inward, as if the forest was flinching. More pods followed. Dozens. Hundreds. They didn't all land clean. Some exploded on impact, crashing into cliffs or sinking into swamps. But many hit their marks. Alien soldiers, tall, armored in shifting silver armor, fanned out in squads. They moved like they'd rehearsed this. Fast. Efficient. Mechanical. Alara climbed down the tower and slipped into the undergrowth. She didn't run in a straight line. She moved like prey, quiet, calculated, and invisible. She knew these lands. The invaders didn't. As she ran, her mind raced. Why now? Why break the quarantine? The Trivax Empire was rich in resources. It didn't need Earth. Unless they discovered something. Something buried. Or something alive. Half an hour later, Alara reached one of her fallback shelters, a hidden cave overgrown with moss and roots. She powered up a low-light screen and mapped the nearby impact zones. She saw a pattern. The ships were landing near ancient cities, energy hotspots, and known underground vaults. They weren't here by accident. They'd come for something specific. As she worked, her wrist console buzzed. Emotion alert. She froze. Outside the cave, 2 Trivax soldiers crept past. Sleek armor, glowing eyes, rifles humming with suppressed energy. They moved in silence, no chatter, no hesitation. One stopped and pointed toward the cave. The other nodded and raised his weapon. Alara backed deeper into the shadows. Her hand hovered over her pistol. Before she could react, the ground groaned. The soil shifted. Crack. Without warning, a vine thicker than a man's arm shot from the ground and coiled around the nearest soldier's leg. He fired, but the blast went wild. The vine pulled him upward into the trees. The second soldier turned to help, but a swarm of black-winged creatures burst from the brush, slashing and tearing at his helmet. He screamed once, then vanished into the shadows. Alara stood there, frozen. Not by fear. By realization. The jungle had protected her. The plants, the animals, they were watching. Responding. She didn't know how. Not yet. But this wasn't the first time she'd seen strange behavior. Creatures tracking without attacking. Vines moving where they shouldn't. Patterns in the soil that matched movement routes. And now, direct action. She stepped out into the moonlight, eyes scanning the trees. For a moment, it felt like something was looking back. Not a creature. Not a machine. The planet itself. Earth had always been violent. But now, Alara wondered. Was it defending itself? The war had just begun. But Alara Voss wasn't fighting alone. Alara didn't sleep that night. She watched from her hidden cave as more alien pods crashed across the jungle. The sky pulsed with the red light of fires. Distant screams and explosions echoed through the trees. Something heavy moved in the distance, mechanical stopping, followed by the roar of falling trees. The jungle fought back, but it was losing ground. The aliens were adapting. By morning, Alara made a choice. She couldn't survive this alone. She needed others. Fighters. Engineers. Survivors. She opened her old comm unit. It had a short-range signal booster, just enough to reach a few known frequencies. She sent a coded burst. This is Alaravos. Alive. Jungle Sector 14. Invasion confirmed. Trivax. Seeking survivors. Repeat. Seeking survivors. She waited. For hours, nothing. Then, a static-filled reply. Sector 12. 2 survivors. Mobile. We'll move toward 14. ETA 6 hours. Watch the trees. They're watching back. Alara smiled. Someone else had seen it too. The jungle wasn't just alive, it was aware. 6 hours later, just before dusk, she spotted movement near the broken highway ruins. She raised her pistol but paused when a voice called out, calm and direct. Friendly. Don't shoot. 2 figures emerged from the underbrush. One was tall, lean, and moved like a soldier. Gray cloak, dark skin, rifle slung over his shoulder. The other was shorter, limping slightly, with gear strapped unevenly to her chest. They looked tired, worn, but alert. The tall man nodded at her. Name's Lior. Used to serve in the Pacific Reclaimers. This is Senya, scavenger, tech fixer, and part-time troublemaker. Senya gave a weak smile. Used to sell batteries. Now I throw grenades at aliens. Life's funny. Alara led them back to her cave. They ate in silence, dried rations, rain-collected water. Once full, Alara pulled out her holomap. We're here. The invaders are moving outward in a circle, but they're focused on specific zones. Energy sites. Old cities. Places with vaults underneath. Lior leaned in. They're not conquering. They're searching. Exactly, Alara said. And they're bringing terraformers. Senya looked up, alarmed. Terraformers? On Earth? That's suicide. They don't know that, Alara said. Or they think they can beat this planet into submission. Lior rubbed his chin. We can't face them head-on, but we can use the terrain. That's what I was thinking, Alara said. Earth is dangerous. We know how to move through it. They don't. For the next 3 days, the group built traps. Primitive, brutal, and deadly. Pitfalls filled with venomous plants. Signal lures that mimic distress beacons. They baited alien patrols into wasp nests and quicksand pits. And it worked. One night, Alara and Lior watched from a ridge as a Trivax recon team fell into one of their dead zones. A mist rolled in from the swamp, thick and choking. The aliens coughed, stumbled, and collapsed. The mist wasn't natural. It clung to armor, melted metal, and dissolved helmets. Senya whispered, that's not just gas. That's intelligent gas. It only moves toward movement. Lior nodded grimly. This world wants them dead. By the end of the week, they had 6 survivors in total. A cybernetics engineer named Dr. Clem joined after rerouting a patrol drone to explode in its own supply depot. He was old, sharp-eyed, and quick with improvised gadgets. They formed a team, not soldiers, not rebels, but something new. The invaders responded by getting smarter. They sent scout drones, burned forest paths with flame tanks, dropped signal blockers. But the jungle changed too. New vines appeared overnight. Animals shifted their routes to avoid danger. Some even seemed to escort the humans, walking parallel to them, keeping silent watch from the trees. One morning, Alara woke to find a strange formation on the cliff near her cave. Rocks arranged in a spiral, with a small animal skull in the center. It hadn't been there before. Lior stared at it for a long time. You think it's a warning? No, Alara said. A message. Senya shook her head. From what? Alara didn't answer right away. She looked out across the jungle, where smoke still rose from the crash sites and alien machinery rumbled in the distance. I don't think it's the jungle, she finally said. I think it's the planet itself. Lior raised an eyebrow. You mean Earth? The whole planet? Dr. Clem spoke for the first time in hours. That would explain the patterns. The defenses. The reactions. It's not random. They all fell quiet. If Earth was truly alive, aware, then this wasn't just a war. It was a test. A final one. That night, Alara added one more note to her journal. We are not alone on this planet. And we never were. Earth sees. Earth remembers. Earth is choosing. The Trivax Empire did not expect resistance. They expected ruins. Silence. Maybe wild animals and malfunctioning tech. What they found was something far worse, a world that fought back. Commander Zelkar watched the footage in silence aboard his field command unit. He stood tall, armored in dark, engraved metal, his eyes scanning the holograms with growing irritation. Dozens of squads lost. Patrols disappearing. Terraformers crushed by falling trees or melted in strange, acidic fog. Even elite machines were failing. He clenched his fist. These primitives shouldn't be a threat, he growled. We've pacified 10 worlds in 2 decades. Earth is not special. His second-in-command, a thin, pale Trivax officer named Vorek, stepped forward. Commander, sensors show atmospheric interference. The planet's electromagnetic field is evolving. Our drones are going blind. The terrain changes faster than our scans can update. Zelkar slammed his fist into the console, cracking it. I want answers. I want this world under control. Far from the Trivax camps, Alara Voss knelt near a patch of overgrown moss. The green fuzz had grown over metal, specifically, a long buried hatch. With Lior and Senya covering her back, she brushed away the moss to reveal a faded symbol. Gaia Protocol, Level 3 clearance required. Dr. Clem caught up moments later, his breath short but eyes wide. This is it. One of the old world's fallback shelters. What is Gaia Protocol? Lior asked. Clem adjusted his goggles. It was a planetary defense system, built centuries ago. Part AI, part biology. The idea was to use Earth itself as a weapon, alter the biosphere to defend against threats. So, the Earth's been weaponized? Senya asked. Not just weaponized, Clem said. Awakened. Alara activated her wrist console and linked it to the hatch panel. The code was degraded, but Clem stepped forward with a bypass chip he'd built from old drone parts. The hatch opened with a long hiss. Inside was a dark corridor lit by flickering green lights. Dust floated in the air. Vines crawled through cracked vents. The facility had been abandoned for over 2 centuries, but it was still alive. They moved carefully, their footsteps echoing down steel halls. Along the walls, faded murals told the story, images of humans building massive machines, seeding clouds, guiding storms, awakening forests. At the center of it all was a core, a glowing orb suspended in a clear chamber, pulsing like a heartbeat. Gaia core status, semi-active. Clem placed his hand on the terminal. It's still functioning. Barely. Alara stepped closer. Can we wake it up? Not fully, Clem replied. But we can reconnect it. Restore its link to surface systems. If it recognizes us as non-hostile, it might respond. And if it doesn't? Lior asked. It might erase us, Clem said bluntly. Along with the aliens. Alara looked at the core. It's a risk we have to take. They connected her wrist console to the mainframe and uploaded a recognition signal, biosignature, human history, proof of Earthborn origin. The room vibrated. The orb's glow intensified. Identity confirmed. Priority threat detected. Non-Terran military presence. Gaia Protocol. Phase 2 initiated. All at once, the walls lit up. Holograms showed shifting terrain maps. Alien positions. Storm formations brewing. Animal migration patterns shifting around enemy bases. Gaia had been watching. Clem stepped back, awe in his voice. It's alive. It's choosing targets. Outside, the jungle changed. Vines thickened. Insects moved in swarms. Thunderclouds gathered without warning. Lightning struck a Trivax tower, turning it to molten slag. In another region, a Trivax walker stepped into a shallow river and never came out. The water thickened, bubbled, and pulled it under like quicksand with a will of its own. Commander Zelkar watched from his base, furious. This planet defies logic. Prepare the Scorched Zone protocol. Burn everything. If Earth refuses to kneel, we will break it. But even as his soldiers obeyed, their flamethrowers jammed. Roots tangled around their legs. Some soldiers disappeared without a sound, pulled into the earth. Alara, Lior, Senya, and Clem returned to the surface, just as a bolt of unnatural lightning struck an alien supply depot in the distance. The explosion lit up the sky. They weren't just hiding anymore. They were fighting. That night, the survivors gathered in an abandoned watchtower. They watched storm clouds gather unnaturally fast. Far in the distance, a Trivax airship lost control and spiraled into a mountainside. Alara stared at the wreckage, eyes calm. Lior handed her a datapad. Enemy command ship is still in orbit. That's where the orders come from. We'll get there, she said. But first, we help Gaia push them back. Senya tossed a broken alien rifle off the edge of the tower. Let them bleed. Let them learn why we call this home. And for the first time since the sky burned, Alara felt hope. Not because they were strong, but because the Earth was angry. And the Earth was helping. The sky stayed dark for 3 days. Thick black clouds rolled over the jungle, heavy with acid rain and static. Trees swayed without wind. Birds had stopped singing. Even the insects went quiet. Earth was watching. In the distance, machines groaned heavy, unnatural sounds echoing through the hills. Alara Voss stood on a moss-covered bridge overlooking a sunken Trivax outpost. The alien base, once brimming with troops and gleaming tech, now lay broken, flooded with roots and twisted metal. Green vines crawled over alien structures. Black fungus had bloomed inside their machines. Nothing was left standing. She turned to Lior beside her. Gaia's not just reacting. It's learning. Faster than we are. Lior scanned the horizon through his cracked scope. And it's not picking sides. We saw that yesterday. They had. A group of human scavengers had tried to steal tech from one of Gaia's altered wildlife zones. They never made it out. The ground collapsed beneath them. Acid pools formed where the soil once was. No one survived. Senya joined them with a grim face. The jungle doesn't care who you are. It sees tech, movement, heat, then strikes. We're not immune. Alara nodded. We need to be careful. Smarter. We've reactivated Gaia, but it's still wild. Still waking up. Clem, the engineer, climbed up from the lower path, his face tight with urgency. Trivax just deployed a mech battalion. Massive walkers. Old blueprints say they can resist atmospheric pressure and acid. They're clearing paths straight through the jungle. Fast. How many? Alara asked. For confirmed. With infantry support. And they're headed straight toward one of Gaia's relay zones. Alara's eyes narrowed. If the aliens destroyed those relay towers, Gaia's coordination could collapse. Earth's defenses would fall apart. She looked at her team. We're not letting that happen. They prepared fast. Every person knew their role. Senya and Clem hacked together EMP darts and camo shields. Lior laid traps sharpened steel, energy spikes, and collapsing tree nets. Alara studied the terrain maps provided by Gaia's old core, watching how the jungle shifted and breathed. When the first mech arrived, it was like a mountain walking. Over 30 feet tall, the alien war machine had 4 legs, plasma cannons on each side, and a command pod on top. It burned everything in its path. Alara watched from a perch above the ravine. The ground below was laced with hidden explosives and organic traps. She raised her hand. Lior nodded. He pressed the detonator. Boom. The first charge sent one of the mech's legs sideways. It stumbled. A tree, weakened by vines, cracked and fell on top of it. The vines moved, tightening around the machine like a predator coiling around prey. The mech fired, shredding the forest, but the vines didn't stop. They grew into the joints, disabling movement. Then Gaia sent in her other weapons. From the canopy, black-winged creatures with razor limbs swarmed the exposed command pod. The alien pilots screamed over comms. One tried to eject. The sky tore him apart. The other mechs kept coming. Alara's team moved like shadows. Hit and run. Distract. Lure. Retreat. Gaia responded to their cues. When they flushed a mech into a swamp, the water solidified like glue, trapping the machine before explosive mushrooms detonated beneath it. But Gaia wasn't perfect. One trap misfired. During a night assault, the third mech fired blindly into a heat zone and struck Senya's cover. She screamed. Alara rushed down the slope, sliding through mud and smoke. She reached Senya, who was pinned under a collapsed branch, her arm burned and twisted. I'm fine, Senya gasped. Get the core drive. Stop the last one. Alara shook her head. We stay together. Lior arrived with Clem moments later. Together, they dragged Senya to cover while Gaia's vines formed a wall of bark and thorns behind them, blocking incoming fire. The fourth mech, the largest, broke through an hour later. It charged straight at the heart of Gaia's relay zone, its guns firing nonstop. Alara knew they had one chance. She climbed to a cliff above the clearing and called out over her comms. Gaia, now. Phase 3. Collapse the zone. Nothing happened for a second. Then the ground trembled. Massive roots, thicker than cars, burst through the soil. They coiled around the mech's legs, digging deep into the earth. The machine roared, fired, twisted. But the roots held. Alara activated her last charge. A pulse bomb. She threw it into the mech's back panel. A flash of light. A sound like thunder. The machine groaned and exploded in a wave of fire and sparks. Silence followed. Ash floated down like snow. The relay zone was safe. Barely. Back at their shelter, Senya's wounds were cleaned. Clem applied a pain patch. Lior sat by the fire, staring into the flames. We survived again, he said quietly. But Gaia's changing. It's not just defense anymore. It's testing us. Alara nodded. It doesn't want invaders. But it doesn't trust us either. She stood and looked at the night sky. A glimmer of metal moved among the stars. The command ship is still up there. That's where this ends. Clem turned toward her. You're going after it? Yes, Alara said. Before Zelkar sends more. Before Gaia decides we're no different from them. She looked down at her team, wounded, exhausted, but alive. This planet fights for itself. But if we want to stay here, we have to fight with it. And so, their path was clear. Not just to survive, but to end the war. The sky cleared for the first time in days. The acid clouds drifted away, replaced by stars and cold wind. The jungle was quiet. Too quiet. Alara stood at the edge of the plateau, her eyes fixed on the silver shape floating high above Earth, the Trivax command ship. It looked peaceful from a distance, like a harmless moon. But she knew better. That ship controlled everything. The reinforcements, the orders, the terraformers still falling from orbit. She turned to her team. We take that ship. We stop the invasion. They were tired. Senya's arm was still in a sling. Lior's leg had been injured in the last fight. Even Clem's voice had grown quiet, worn by constant repairs and long nights. But no one argued. They knew what had to be done. Their plan was risky. Infiltrate the Trivax relay hub where the orbit-link beacons were housed, hijack a transport shuttle, and get aboard the command ship. No backup. No second chances. The beacon site lay in a ruined city to the north, once a human megacity, now drowned in vines and fog. Trivax had fortified it, built metal walls and automated turrets. But they weren't expecting an assault from Earth's own children. As they approached, Gaia helped. The fog grew thicker. The ground became soft and uneven under the invaders' feet. Wildlife swarmed the outer perimeter, distracting guards. It wasn't coordination, it was instinct. The planet was angry, and it was listening. Lior fired the first shot. A sentry drone dropped, its lights flickering. Alara and Senya moved fast, disabling the nearest tower with an EMP dart. Clem hacked the shuttle's bay doors as vines slithered up the landing gear, holding it in place. It took 6 minutes to clear the path and lift off. In that time, 2 Trivax patrols spotted them, but Earth itself covered their retreat. Roots burst from the pavement. Lightning split the air. As their stolen shuttle broke through the clouds, the stars grew sharper, colder. The ship's controls rattled, but Clem guided it steady toward the massive Trivax command cruiser. Its docking bay opened automatically. The system still recognized the shuttle's ID. They had made it aboard. Inside, the air was dry and sterile. The floor hummed beneath their boots. White lights lined silent corridors. The Trivax built with logic, not soul. Every hallway was the same. Split into 2 teams, Alara said. Clem and Senya, find the mainframe. Get access to their fleet systems. Lior, you're with me. We're going after Zelkar. No one hesitated. Commander Zelkar stood before a long window, watching Earth spin beneath him. His armor was polished, his posture perfect. But his hands were clenched behind his back. He had underestimated this world. It had killed his best soldiers, broken his machines. Now it was changing faster than his systems could keep up. Entire forests had vanished from satellite scans. River patterns shifted overnight. Even the weather defied control. Still, he would not lose. I gave them the chance to surrender, he said to no one. They chose extinction. Then the alarm sounded. Breach detected. Internal systems compromised. Zelkar turned slowly. His eyes narrowed. Send security to Bay 3, he said. And seal the bridge. I want the intruders alive. Alara and Lior moved fast through the halls. They encountered resistance, 2 drone squads, both taken down by a mix of blaster fire and reprogrammed hunterbots Clem had hijacked from Earth. The ship fought back with automated defenses, but the jungle had taught them how to move through danger like ghosts. Meanwhile, Senya and Clem found the data core. It pulsed with cold blue light, storing fleet orders and environmental override commands. Clem plugged in a device crafted from Gaia's old tech, a hybrid signal relay. Uploading Earth's command signature, Clem muttered. Senya glanced at him. What happens if it works? We give Gaia access to their systems. She'll decide what to do with it. And if it doesn't, we get vaporized. The upload began. Alara kicked open the door to the command bridge. Zelkar turned, calm and unreadable. So, he said, you made it. Alara raised her pistol. Call off your forces. Leave Earth. He tilted his head. You don't understand. Earth is no longer yours. It is a resource. A tool. And your kind are in the way. You invaded a world you didn't understand, she said. Now it's taking you apart. I've conquered stronger species. Not one like this, Alara said. Not one that fights back without weapons. Zelkar stepped forward. You speak for the jungle now? I speak for a planet, she said. And she's very angry. Zelkar lunged. Their fight was fast and brutal. He was stronger, faster, trained in combat far beyond human norms. But Alara was quick, and the ship didn't belong to him anymore. The lights flickered. The floor shook. Then the voice came. Foreign command detected. Connection overridden. Gaia's voice was cold, layered with echoes ancient and electronic. Invasive force marked for elimination. Zelkar froze. What? Alara pressed her console. The ship's core lights turned green. Defense systems shut down. A wave of internal gravity surged as every Trivax ship still in orbit received the same signal. Earth had taken control. Zelkar turned toward Alara, hate in his eyes. You gave it everything, he spat. Even your own freedom. No, she said softly. I gave it a choice. He charged again. Alara ducked, spun, and drove a shock blade into his side. Zelkar collapsed with a metallic gasp. His armor cracked. His eyes dimmed. The war was over. Back in the shuttle, Alara joined Clem and Senya. The systems were still rebooting. Lior limped in moments later, holding a cracked helmet. He's gone. Alara nodded. It's done. They looked out the window as the Trivax fleet broke orbit and began to fall, disabled, powerless. One by one, the ships turned and drifted into the void. Gaia had spared them. For now. Senya leaned back. Let's go home. And for the first time in weeks, Alara smiled. The shuttle sliced back through Earth's atmosphere, its hull glowing red from the heat. Inside, Alara Voss sat quietly, staring through the small window at the planet below. The clouds had parted. The fires had faded. Earth was calm again. They had won. But victory felt different now, heavier, quieter. This wasn't like winning a war. It was like surviving a storm. Beside her, Senya breathed slowly, her burned arm resting in a soft brace. Clem sat cross-legged with his eyes closed, drained from days of hacking alien systems. Lior, ever alert, stood at the side hatch, gripping the shuttle's rails with his one good hand, watching the landscape pass beneath them. They were all changed. The shuttle landed gently in a clearing near their original jungle shelter. The forest had grown denser since they left. Trees stood taller, thicker. The vines now pulsed faintly with green light. Birds circled overhead in a slow, rhythmic pattern. It was as if the jungle recognized them and welcomed them back. Alara stepped out first. Warm, humid air wrapped around her like a memory. The sounds of life returned, chirping, rustling, distant growls. But no signs of conflict. No smoke. No ash. Gaia was healing. They returned to the cliffside camp, where the others had begun to gather, dozens of survivors who had remained hidden during the worst of the war. When Alara appeared, their faces lit up. No one cheered, but they nodded. That was enough. She stood before them as the sun dipped low in the sky. It's over, she said simply. The Trivax command ship is gone. Their fleet is disabled. Gaia is in control. Someone asked quietly, are they all dead? No, Alara answered. Gaia let most of them go. Sent them drifting. Some were destroyed, yes, but not all. Another voice. Why didn't she finish them? Alara looked out over the jungle, her voice steady. Because Gaia isn't just angry. She's awake. She's watching us too. The group went silent. Dr. Clem stepped forward. We reactivated her. Gave her back her voice. But that means she hears everything now. Every fire we light. Every tree we cut. Every weapon we build. Senya added, she'll protect this world. But she'll also protect it from us if we forget what we are. Lear nodded. This place isn't ours to rule. It never was. We just live here. Alara turned to face the group again. We're not rebuilding the old world. That world destroyed itself. We build something better. Smaller. Smarter. Aligned with Gaia. Not above her. A murmur passed through the crowd. People began to move, setting up shelters, growing food, reconnecting with nearby settlements. No factories. No cities. No networks that could anger the Earth again. In time, they learned to listen to the planet. Gaia guided them in strange ways, shifting plant growth to steer travelers, darkening skies before danger came, moving wildlife to safer ground during storms. It wasn't speech, but it was communication. A rhythm. A pattern. A warning. A welcome. And slowly, Earth became home again. Weeks passed. Then months. Alara stood once more on the old observation tower, looking out at the jungle she had once studied. It had become something else now. A guardian. A partner. She activated her wrist console one last time and opened a secure channel. It linked to a dormant satellite, now under Gaia's control. Her message was short. To the stars. To the Watchers. To the next empire that dares. Earth is not lost. She is not silent. She is not yours. And she is not alone. She paused, then spoke the final words clearly. We are Earthborn, and we remember. She ended the transmission and turned back toward the settlement. Children played beneath the trees. Elders sat by fires. The jungle moved softly in the wind, alive but calm, balanced, peaceful for now. The war was over. The invaders were gone. Earth had chosen her survivors, not because they were the strongest, but because they listened, because they stayed, because they belonged.